I don't know about top two, because I think we've got a nice spread of organizations and people represented here, all the way from startups to very big companies covering multiple sectors of the industry. And some might even be not-for-profit organizations or universities, for example. So I think if I were to look for commonality in the challenges that people are facing with planning, I'll mention two, since you asked for two, but we can quickly see that they relate to lots of other things too. So one is that, and you teed it up in the introduction, I think, there is an increasing recognition that we're living in a very volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, which is abbreviated in that acronym you used, VUCA, which actually comes from the Pentagon. And if we accept the Pentagon as one of the master planners for world affairs in general, they do it from their perspective. But if they're referring to the operating environment as being very volatile and uncertain, that means that even they can't see where the world is going. So for organizations at a much smaller scale, they're experiencing that 10 times. You know? And just to give you a few examples, this is everything from sourcing of materials to how to dispose of waste to human issues. You know, how is the new generation of the workforce going to react to the way work has been set up so far? So I think the environment of uncertainty is making a lot of the conventional planning tools almost obsolete. Might be a slightly provocative statement, but a lot of the planning tools, not to essentialize them, but they're extrapolating from the past. So there's a lot of analysis on past trends, what has happened in the past, and there's very relatively unsophisticated extrapolation from that. You know, it's not a lot of complex non-linear dynamics or something. It's basically Excel spreadsheets where people are making very linear extrapolations about whether things will continue or be slightly different. And the world we're living in doesn't fit that model anymore. So there's a lack of, there's frankly a panic in the boardrooms about, okay, so what do we use to plan anymore? Or is planning as an activity itself in question? So that's one. The second one, which comes from a very different direction, is employee engagement, you know? So, and it's sort of a puzzle, because on one hand, you have fears of automation and loss of jobs that's creating uncertainty. So you would think you'd have a more compliant workforce in some sense. You know, if you're a business owner, you'd think, people are going to be a bit more scared, worried about jobs, they'll take anything. Doesn't turn out to be the case, especially with the millennial generation and the generation that's coming after them. They have very different ideas about work, about happiness, about what work is for, how they want to live their lives. One way of looking at them is to say, what do they know? You know, they're kids. They'll wake up to the real world. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. Especially the startups in the room will kind of recognize the drawing power of the different model of business that they're creating. So I could go on, but I'll leave it there. I think those are the things that people are most worried about.
I think, Rujita, your microphone is muted, so you might want to unmute it.
Gopi, would you like to say anything from your side?
Yes, I think I'm on the same page with Manoj with respect to, I'm not sure whether I can put my finger on top two, but I think there's a whole range of issues that should concern organizations globally. First is the sense of compass itself is vanishing. What's up north? What's my compass? So we're actually having to spend time figuring out what our compass is. Is revenue good? Is profits good? Is investor value good? Is customer value good? Is innovation good? So to me, the most important trend is that everyone needs to figure out their own north or their sense of compass. I think that's a major concern. We know of many organizations which did phenomenal revenue and profitability, and a couple of quarters later, they were gone. So if I was measuring them with respect to revenue as a compass, they were doing well. But if I was measuring with respect to their lifetime, they were gone. They weren't doing well. So I think most chief executive officers' challenge is, what's the compass? The second is a challenge about what does my customer want? What does the consumer want? What does he need? I think that's another fear, because I think he wants this and suddenly something else turns out in technology. So everywhere there is a sense of ignorance, the famous, the elephant experiment about how 4 blind men are going around and figuring out where the tail is. So I think we are losing in touch with our customer and consumer. We are losing touch with the human experience and emotion. We are caught up with technology. We're caught up with deploying technology. We're caught up in a whole lot of things, but we don't know what our end customer and consumer want. So one is the sense of compass is missing. Second, I'm losing my human connection with the customer. The third, which I think is a very famous parable. I don't know whether it is scientifically true. The parable about the frog, where if you put a frog in a boiling water, a frog would jump out. Whereas if you boil the water with frog, the frog will die. So I think many companies are getting boiled like a frog. And so startups that way, when they're jumping in, they're jumping out quickly and say, hey, this is not my area. But established companies are getting cooked in the boiling water. So to me, the three concern is, one is that where is my compass? Two, how do I really know what my customer and consumer want? And three, to ensure that my senses are out so that I quickly jump out of the boiling water. These are three fears I think most companies will have globally.